Time is X minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
It's the Rocket Hour. Y'all are now tuned in. Time to hit the pick four that you'd love to win. If your money's coming slow, step on the faster track with your host, Ricky Pasternak. Let's go.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Rocket Hour. This is Lucky 13 for us here on January 21st. And you can see that right there. It's Lucky 13 or Unlucky 13 and January 21st, 2021. That has to be good luck for us, right?
Yeah, 121-21, right? And you need a little better luck than what happened to you yesterday. So maybe it'll come. We'll get to that a little later, I guess. But yeah, man, happy to be on. Boy, you talk about a busy few days here at the Racing Dudes headquarters. Holy cow. And we still got a lot to go. You know, it's just Thursday. Pegasus is coming up on Saturday. Guide is almost finished. So, yeah, a lot of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the Racing Dudes headquarters. I might start using that. I kind of like that tune there. We'll say Fort Lee, New Jersey, the headquarters as well. To your point, though, we will talk about yesterday because I'm fuming just thinking about it. But so we definitely will touch on it. If you don't want to listen to it, unfortunately, you're going to have to today. I will be going on a rant. But more or less, we do have today's card to get into, like you talked about. It's a massive, massive weekend. The guide will be here at Gulfstream for the Pegasus. Oaklawn kicks off tomorrow. We will be at Oaklawn tomorrow doing a preview, which is great. I can't wait to get back to it. But we do have another card today, so let's get into that. We will be showing the scratches, all that good stuff. Here are the entries for today. Dennis, no, you did not tweet too much last night. We appreciate the support. We will never cut you off, even though we might think we want to. We will never cut you off. I promise you that. Let me scroll up here. We were starting at race 9. I don't know why I was starting at the bottom, but here we go. We're going to start with race number 7. You can see the one Dixieland Darling is scratched. This is starter optional, claiming $40,000 for 3-year-old fillies going 1 mile on the turf. That's 8 furlongs. That is 2 turns as well. I'll let you start. I kind of saw this as one of the more wide open races. There are a few prices that I thought could be included. How did you kind of break this one down?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. This is a nice little race, you know, to start off the sequence here. I think I don't think there's any world beaters, but there's some nice fillies in here, right? Some little up and coming 3-year-old fillies that might be able to make an impact in a little bit bigger of a race down the road. Maybe not right now, but as they kind of progress. Yeah, I did think it was wide open, but in the end, I thought the best play was to box the 2 favorites here in a $5 exacta box. I kind of tried to get a lot of horses involved. This was a race I kind of looked at the most as far as what wagering strategy do I want to employ here. But in the end, I just kind of liked the two favorites. And the 9 was actually my top pick. Number 9, Sweet Pearl at 7-2 on the morning line. You know, gets Luis Saez back aboard today. I think that's a really good sign. 2 races back, basically ran at the same level and at the same distance at 1 mile. Just missed by a nose. It was a really, really close race. And Luis Saez was aboard then. Last time out, jumps up to a stakes, gets Corey Lannery aboard, and just was outclassed. But now back where this horse needs to be, drawn outside of all the other speed. I think a nice, perfect stalking trip is what Luis Saez is going to give the 9 Sweet Pearl today. So I like that horse on top. The horse I liked second was the 4, I Get It. And basically this race, you know, coming out of the same 2 races as Sweet Pearl, right? Last time out in a stakes, this horse ran pretty well. Only got beaten by about 4 lengths, finished 4th. You know, 2 backs. Sweet Pearl did finish ahead of this, or I'm sorry, I Get It did finish ahead of Sweet Pearl. But I feel like the trips may favor Sweet Pearl. That's why I think she can turn the tables, because I Get It comes from way behind, and I don't see a ton of pace in here. But I do think I Get It is a logical horse to use as well. So yeah, I went a 4-9 exacta box for $5. That was my two top choices.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on the 4 and 9, so I'm not really going to talk too much about them. I agree that they are probably going to run similar races and probably finish around the same, and I wouldn't be surprised if those two do battle again in the stretch. The two horses, or two fillies, I should say, that I wanted to touch on a little bit was the 3 Hadley, who faced Sweet Pearl last time out. I kind of like this horse from the standpoint of I don't think she's going to be as far back as we have seen in the past. And I think if she's sitting around 6th, which she was 2 starts back when she actually broke her maiden and made an optional claim up at Woodbine, this is a horse that I could kind of see being a price. I like the 4 and 9. I just don't know if they're that much better than Hadley. And I do kind of like that value. I just think last time out, she was too far off the pace. You can make the argument that at 48 and flat, she maybe could have done a little bit better, but she was consistently progressing. I do really like this spot for her, and I think 8-1 is solid value. So I don't think she's that much worse, and that's why I have to include her. And Polished Gem is another one. For the mere fact, I'll be honest, Julien Leparoux is getting on the turf. This is a massive, massive question mark for me. She's never run on the turf before. Ian Wilkes doesn't have the best numbers, but her figures don't come back as poorly as I would have expected them to be. You know, at least on my end, I'll handicap first and then go see the figures. Some people will do it simultaneously. The only reason I don't like to do that is because I might be swayed if I see a number. So I always like to cap it first. I went back and I kind of saw this could be the perfect spot. If Sweet Pearl gets to the lead, which I think she probably will, I think we kind of are in the same boat there. I get it might be a little bit further back. Polished Gem might need the perfect trip, but if she's going to sit right behind Sweet Pearl, that's kind of where I factor her in. So it's more of a position play for me with Julien Leparoux getting on the turf. Between the 3 and the 6, I prefer the 3. But I don't know if the 4 and 9 are just that much better than everyone else in this spot.
So yeah, that's a really good segue to get it back over to me, because that was kind of where I was. I liked the 3. I think that's a pretty smart play. The 6 is not a horse I had in the top 4, but I do think it's kind of a stranger danger, so to speak, is getting on the turf, a lot of unknowns, has a pedigree that might be able to do the job. I like the 7 a little bit. I kind of played around with maybe playing a trifecta, and I thought the 7 was a horse you'd need to use. But in the end, I just couldn't get a strong enough opinion on anybody else other than that 4 and 9. So, like I said, I debated for a while what to do here, and I just kept coming back to that 4 and 9 kind of being standouts in this spot. But to your point, I don't really mind going 4 deep here, because it's not like the 4 and the 9 are like world beaters by any stretch, right? And so if a horse can improve, if a horse can get a good trip, they can definitely pull an upset here. So I kind of like your picks of the 3 and the 6. A horse that I want to mention, because we talked about this horse on the Rocket Hour in an earlier show. Dennis is saying he went with Coffee Buzz Buzz. I'll start with this one. First time out on the turf, looked pretty good. And I kind of thought after that race, I'm going to use this horse next time out. I don't like that she's moving up in class. I kind of think that claiming level would have been perfect. So that's kind of why I didn't use. Did you have any thoughts on Coffee Buzz Buzz?
Yeah.
Buzz Buzz, I should say.
Yeah, that is a creative name. So I would give the connections credit for that one. I completely agree. If she was coming back into, I think it was yesterday, like those claiming races 35 through 25, which that's what she was in last time out, or even claiming 40 maybe, if you think she could improve a little bit, I would agree. That's where I would have wanted her. I don't know. I wouldn't mind this horse if she wasn't facing anyone dropping down. So I think the 3 is dropping a little bit. I think the 4 is taking a massive drop, and the 9 is taking a massive drop. That's the problem. You have too many class droppers. If you had horses that were just kind of coming back to this level that you didn't like, that's fine. But we have too many class droppers. I do like the fact that Edgard Zayas picks up the mount again. I think that's encouraging. To be honest, if I'm going to use Coffee Buzz Buzz, then I'm probably using a few others as well. So I just couldn't go that deep. And I personally think you'd be 6 or 7 deep for me to get to her. But that's kind of where I'm at. I think at a price, maybe a win play show bet for me, something like that. But I didn't want to use her on the ticket.
Yeah, couldn't get there either. And Dennis is right. I do need a coffee. So I didn't have it this morning. So
yeah. And this is Mike's comment. He goes, it's interesting that Madacat and Duh protect her after sending her out in a maiden claiming. That's interesting too. I didn't really think about that. I just don't know necessarily if that's where I want her. I still agree this is a big spot up, but that is something I guess to keep an eye on, that she is going to be protected here. She won't leave. There are actually no runners in this spot that are in for a tag, which is interesting as well. But yeah, I think we've kind of covered it. I think we're pretty strong on the 4 and 9 as a consensus, but the 3 and the 6 are 2 horses that I would consider as well. Next race is claiming 12,500 for 3-year-old fillies going 7 furlongs on the turf. I'll kind of let you get started with this one. You know, you kind of talked about 2 standouts in the last race. I kind of see a few standouts here as well. Excuse me. Did you kind of see this race the same, or did you see this a little bit more wide open?
Yeah, this is a race. You know, Mike Samich said he thought that the last race was an all. I almost think this race could be an all a little bit. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can go here. The 7 furlong distance is always kind of a niche distance. Some horses really like it. Some horses don't. My biggest problem with this race was deciding what to do, because I don't like to play tries, supers, and 7-horse fields. Just the way I like to structure my tickets, I just can't do that. And then it kind of becomes, okay, can I play an exacta? Can I really count on 2 horses here? Nope, I can't. So I ended up falling for a $10 win wager on the 3 Kirby. This horse last time out, I know the race was nothing but a 13-length victory over this track going this distance. And I thought that was the big key. If say it was 5 furlongs, 6 furlongs, a mile, maybe I wouldn't have taken it, so strongly, but 7 furlongs, I just think it's such a specialty distance, and this horse has a 13-length win at the distance. So I thought that was good. Also, $16,000 maiden claimer. Now we're at a $12,000 claimer today. It's not like they're overspotting the horse, So I thought that was a good sign as well. The biggest thing too, I don't see a ton of speed in here. This horse looks to be the main controlling speed. And if she gets out ahead against this kind of a suspect field, I kind of think she can take them gate to wire. $10 to win on the 3 was my play. I kind of looked at it like this. You either play the 3 here or you have to go pretty deep. But that's who I liked the best, the 3. I will give you the 1 was my second choice. Same kind of thing, right? 1 by 14 lengths at Delaware and a maiden claimer. I mean, that's a huge win, obviously. But last time out, came here to Gulfstream, and you could see the difference between Delaware and Gulfstream form. Came here, $20,000 claimer, and just got smoked. But I do think now dropping to 12, I think it's enough of a drop, and the horses just here aren't great. This is another horse that has early speed and can sit a decent trip. So I thought I'd use if you're playing exactas tries, I think the 1 is a good horse to use, and who I had in second.
Yeah, I used the 1 and 3. That's all I used. I'm kind of looking at it again, and I don't know how confident I really should be in that. I'm not going to obviously, throw anything into the mix. I think the 3, like you said, is a standout in terms of the race last time out. To do that in 23 seconds is solid. I mean, it's not slow. We've talked about 7 furlongs before. 7 furlongs is always that versatile distance. I guess 7.5 furlongs here at Gulfstream on the turf. They have that. It's like about 7.5 furlongs. It's always interesting because based on the race, it could be really slow or it could be really fast, because you have some sprinters that are going to try stretching out, or you have some horses that are a mile or a mile and 16 that are going to cut back. So I think this race is always, in terms of distance, always kind of difficult to kind of play out just because it's a 1-turn 7 furlongs. It's really, really tough. And there aren't a lot of these races. There aren't a lot of 7 furlongs, but I completely agree. If you look at the 3, to win by that much, this is probably where she belongs. I love this horse because you could look, the only concern for me is the layoff, not having run since late September. But we've seen a lot of times, and tell me if I'm wrong, a horse wins at this, but at the maiden claiming 16, excuse me, and then moves up to like a claiming 25. And then you don't know what to do with that horse because it's such a big step up. And they're facing winners for the first time. I think this is exactly where she belongs. And you kind of look at the rest of the field and say, what are they offering? We'll go through some of the other prices. Dennis here says if I was playing a multi-race, I would go 1, 3, 4, 7. So, and I agree with the sentiment on the 1, so I'm not going to get into that. But the 4, does anyone want the last race at the claiming 25 at Tampa Bay Downs? I mean, does anyone want the race 2 back, claiming 20 here at Gulfstream? If you're going to lose by that many lengths, then you can win here. I just don't want a horse like that. That seems to be trending in the wrong direction. The 7 is the one that I would have liked to use because I think she's getting back to a better distance for her, A, and B, I don't really know if she wants to turf. Her 1 win, obviously, maiden claiming 20 level was very impressive, but that was a race that came off the turf. So maybe she just wants the turf. Wants the dirt. That was the horse that I kind of thought about as well. If you weren't going to use the 1 and 3, what would be your top choice in this spot? Or are you just cutting it off at 1 and 3?
I really like the 6. I think that's the horse that I really debated on, and it's kind of for the same reasons that I like the 3 a little bit. It's just a runaway victory obviously a low level maiden claimer, but at the same time it's an 8-length win. So I liked her a bit, but yeah, it's just they're all kind of slow. And so to me, I just want those forwardly placed horses in a race where these horses just don't look very good. Like, who is going to run up and just make a massive move on the turn and close on these horses that are ahead? There's not anybody. So that is my, the strongest thing is okay, 1 and 3, they're going to be close to that lead or on the lead. And that's what you want. And the 6, I thought would just be a little too far back. The same thing with the 7. I think if you want to key the 6 or a 7 in a try, put them in the 2nd or 3rd spots, maybe they clunk up there and get a piece of it, maybe. But in the end, I just thought the 1 and 3 would be forwardly placed enough to just kind of separate themselves from the field.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there are 2 ways to look at this race, and we're on the same page. If you're going to take horses that are coming out of the maiden claiming ranks, you have the 3, you have the 6 that really stand out. I think we prefer the 3. So in terms of just those types of wins, and I guess the 1 at that maiden claiming 15 at Delaware had a blowout win as well. And then you look at the other way where you say who's dropping out of a tougher race that you might want. The 2 is the biggest class dropper, but the 2 couldn't beat me. Seriously, this 2 couldn't beat me. You can't run a race and lose by 35 lengths, even though it's a big class drop. So I think we kind of look at the 1 and say that's the best class dropper. I'll be honest, this race is for shit. It's absolutely horrible. And I think this is one of those, if you're playing the way I play and you're playing the pick 4, you're just praying you get through with the 1 and 3 because you're not going to get value. I don't see any of the long shots coming in. The 2, the 5, don't see it. And I don't know if you're going to get great prices on the rest of them anyway. So I don't think this is a value play. I think this is just a move on type of situation.
The class drop for the 2 it's 100% accurate, right? Like, this is a huge drop, but this horse was 60-1, 65-1, and 64-1 in her last 3 starts. So yes, it is a class drop, but it's absolutely needed. And like you mentioned, the horse has just been nowhere near close. The one, caveat to what I'm saying, though, the horse did win in a $35,000 maiden claiming level 4 races back. It was at Gulfstream Park West, so it's a little bit lower class. Those fields aren't quite as good. But she did win, and she does have some early speed. That feels like a lifetime ago when we saw that happen. I don't know if she gets back to that kind of race, perhaps, she is the upsetter, but I didn't want to use a horse that had been beaten that badly.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that horse, if she's going to come back and win here and find a race back through over 3 months ago, well, you know what? Congratulations to you, because again, to me, you have to hit the all button to get to her. Unless you just see no favorites in here, but I think there's enough talent to move on. Let's move on to the 9th race. Starter optional claiming $50,000 for 3-year-olds going 1 mile on turf as we kind of attack the back half of this sequence here. There are a few scratches to announce. I will get to them now. We will start with the 5, Southern Passage. He's out for Dale Romans. And the 10, Ghostly Prince, is out for Kelsey Danner. I don't think we necessarily had the 5 and 10 in our play, but our job is to announce. This is a really, really good race. I was really kind of excited to see this one play out. I'll start with my top choice, and I'll let you kind of take it over from here, because you kind of have a multitude of horses you want to talk about. I really love the 9, Fulmini. I'm obviously all about consistency, no matter what level you're running at. And Fulmini has done just that. If you kind of take a look at his PPs, his last race was taken off, going 7 furlongs in a really, really, really tough state bred race. I think if that race stays on the turf, I think he has a strong chance to win it. And then last time out, 2 starts back, had this option here. Allowance optional claiming, that's tougher than what he's going to be seeing today. I just think this is a class drop for him. We haven't really seen him at this level. So we've seen him at the maiden special weight level. We've seen him in 3 stakes races and allowance optional claiming. I think this is just the perfect spot. And at no point in his career has he been outclassed. So I was really, really all over this horse. I did use the 4 and 8 as well. But I think the 9 Fulmini is one of my stronger plays in the sequence. How did you kind of look at this one? Because I think you can make a case for a lot.
It's very interesting because I did not use the 9 in the trifecta box that I played at all. So this is, I guess, this is definitely going to be the race where we disagree the most. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of pace in here. Where we kind of talked about race 7 at the same distance, kind of the same level. And it's like, I don't see a lot of pace here. I see a little bit. And I think the 11 Chow is very, very interesting. Claimed by Safi Joseph last time out, or 2 races back. Then last time out, this horse ran in the starter allowance ranks, got 3rd, beaten ahead, made a pretty good move. Now Luis Saez gets aboard today. So I thought at 8-1, the 11 made a lot of sense. That was my top choice. I did use the 4 honorable. I think the 4 is the most logical winner, winning 2 races in a row, beating my top choice last time out. The only thing that gave me a little bit of pause for concern about the 4 is I felt like he got a kind of an easy trip on the front. He wasn't really on the lead, but he was right there at the front, and they didn't really go fast, and he just kind of was able to stay. I think if the pace quickens today, which I do believe will happen, he might be a little bit in trouble. I could see him kind of getting pressured, and will he kind of stay there if he gets pressured? But still, the 4, obviously winning 2 races in a row and winning at this level, he's very obvious as well. What about the 7? Richie's Got Game. This horse was very interesting to me. This is a horse I think you have to include. Debuted on the turf at this distance way back in September of 2020 and won. Tried the dirt 3 straight times, won 2 of those 3 races, including a small Illinois-bred stakes last time out. Gets back to the turf today, I think very logically spotted, and Irad Ortiz Jr. gets aboard. I thought that was very interesting. So I thought the 7 was definitely one you got to throw in. And then finally, my 4th choice, this is kind of crazy one. I kind of like the 2, Yes This Time, a little bit. At 20-1, I think this horse can hit the board today. Last time out, broke his maiden for $30,000 maiden claiming at the fairgrounds. We kind of talked to Dennis about this on Twitter last night. Seems like this horse was privately purchased, new ownership group now, sent to Kelly Breen, gets Paco Lopez aboard. We kind of talked about how Paco very good on the turf here at Gulfstream. I think at 21, this horse has a shot. I definitely think you got to throw this horse in. Maybe not for what you're doing, Ricky. Maybe I don't play this horse in the multis, but I played a 50-cent trifecta box here. I think this horse is the spice horse of the field. So 2, 4, 7, 11, 50-cent trifecta box is my play here. I think it's a perfect race to play a try because I do think you can go a ton of different ways.
Yeah, I'm happy you threw that caveat in at the very end because I think we agree the 2 is not a win candidate, but you're not looking for a win candidate necessarily. If you can get third, your try will pay well. I agree there. To Dennis's point here, he in the previous comment he talks about he likes the 8, and I completely agree. Fire at Will is a very, very, very special type of very, very special horse. I think Zippy Baby comes out of 2 races that I think we would both agree in the With Anticipation and the Pilgrim, which is a grade 2 at Belmont. That all of those horses are beating these horses. So that's where I went. I went with the 4, 8, and 9. I talked about Fulmini. You talked about Honorable a little bit. You were a little skeptical, but you used Honorable as well. I think the 8 Zippy Baby is going to be in that perfect spot, probably between 3rd and 5th, just enough to pounce. Because I agree, this could quicken up. I think the 7 was going to go, and you were talking about the 11 Chow, who's probably going to be coming from a little bit further out. Those races, I also want to mention real quick. Those maiden special weight races at Saratoga on the turf are unbelievable. I mean, some of those horses, if you get a chance to kind of move forward and just kind of, if you get a chance to look them up, no matter how you do it, see where these horses end up when they try to make their maiden at 2 or 3. See where they end up when they're 4 or 5, because you're going to be pretty impressed. And I just think that we saw progression. The first time he was on the turf going long, he won by half a length with John Velasquez aboard. I think John Velasquez is still one of the really good riders, probably doesn't get as great of stock anymore, and he really picks and chooses. As I'm looking here, he only had 35 mounts coming into this spot. That's been updated, but when I downloaded it a couple of days ago, but he really kind of picks and chooses and doesn't ride for everyone anymore. This is just a horse that I think people are going to say, he wasn't that good. Fire at Will's really, really, really talented. So I think we can kind of throw those 2 races out. And if we're just looking at the 1 maiden special weight race, I wouldn't mind this horse at all. And I think this would be a logical place to come for him as he kind of makes his way to Florida. What did you think of the 8 Zippy Baby? Because you know how good Fire at Will is.
Yeah, this is probably one I'm going to regret not having in the try. I probably got a little bit greedy in trying to create that value. But my problem with Zippy Baby is I just don't understand why she's in this, or why he's in this race. Like, you would think this horse would be somewhere different, right? So I was really confused, and I might be reading a little too much into it. I don't know. But I thought this was a really weird spot for this horse to show up. Maybe they're just trying to build the confidence a little bit for him. I'm not quite sure, but there was enough to me to say, well, if I was doing what your way of doing it, I do think it's a horse that's logical for sure. But for me, I was like, well, let's kind of throw Zippy Baby out. Let's kind of take a shot against. Let's kind of go. It's kind of the Gatsby angle that I had a couple of weeks ago, where it's, this horse is pretty good on paper, but why is he in this race? And let's try to play against him. And it worked out. It may not work out here, but I'm going to take a small shot against with the try. I'm going to leave him out of the top 3. But I'm with you. This horse obviously, is the quote unquote class of the race, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're just talking about a class, I definitely think that the class award, as I would like to say, goes to the 8 just because of what he faced. And I even wrote when I did my product, which is available on the website, I said, I said class dropper, something along those lines. And I said, will be happy to not see Fire at Will in this spot because he's just not good enough, and that's not his fault. I mean, Fire at Will is one of the better turf horses around. So I think this is just one of those instances where you'd say he faced a really, really tough bunch in those two races, or he's just not that good. But my bounce back to that would be if you look at his odds, especially in the with anticipation, he was 4-1. Mm-hmm. So it's not like he was 45-1 where he didn't belong. At 4-1, that's, I mean, to finish third by 5.5, it's not great, but he finished third and then comes back in almost 12.5-1 in a much better race in the Pilgrim, still loses to Fire at Will. So I think that's a horse that you want to include, but I do agree with your point. I don't know how much value there's going to be in the try. So if you're going to play the 2 at 20-1, you're going to get obviously a lot more value. And the 2 is kind of one of those, you don't really know what's going on. So that's an interesting point. Real quick before we move on, and this was Dennis and I were, or Dennis and you, I should say, we're kind of going back and forth last night about trying to find some more information on the 2. I unfortunately couldn't find anything different either. And I said that I agree with you in terms of the assessment, because that was a really interesting, everyone was trying to figure out, I guess it was a private purchase, as you said earlier, which isn't always, obviously when it's private, sometimes that leaks out, sometimes it doesn't. And in this case, good investigative work by you to kind of figure that out.
When you're talking about this level, you just never really know, you don't know what happened. I mean, they may have gave this source to this new ownership group. Who knows, right? So, I'm not really sure. You basically just have to get on Equibase and say, okay, this was the owner last time, and now the owner this time is different. There was no claim. So I don't really know. Yeah. The only thing you can kind of get from that is, well, the horse was privately purchased. So that's my best guess.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And again, you kind of have to do some investigative work to get to that conclusion. And we might not even be sure if that's true or not. There could be something else, some agreement down the road, but we're not going to speculate. Let's move on to the last race, claiming 35,000 through 25,000 for 4-year-olds and upward, going 1 1/16 miles on the turf, 8.5 furlongs on the turf, going 2 turns. Real quick before I get into who I like, this was one of those spots that we thought we would like to see one of the other runners kind of come back to. I forgot who it was. We were talking about it earlier. Oh, Coffee Buzz Buzz. We kind of thought this would be a good spot, just in terms of the condition and the claiming ranks and things like that. Yeah. I'll let you start, because I have a strong opinion here. So I'll kind of let you start and see if we can kind of match up.
It's funny that we are really different on this card, because I have no opinion on this race whatsoever. That's why I only invested $37 total today, because I did not like this 7 through 10 sequence as well as some of the others we've done on the show. Now, the big thing to that, the last time I invested $37, it turned out really well. So don't take that as a negative. It's just I don't feel willing to risk a ton of money on this, and especially this race. I had $5 on this race. I thought $5 to win on the 4 was going to be my play. So the 4 is my top pick. Listen, I don't really know why this horse has had most of his races on the dirt. I think the turf is definitely this horse's best surface. You look, the horse broke his maiden on the turf, and then went up to an allowance going 1.5 miles, finished 4th, beaten 6th, but ran decent. And then a string of dirt races, back to the turf last time out at the $50,000 claiming level here at Gulfstream, going 1 mile. Got 4th, beaten 3 3/4. You know what, though? A real lack of pace, I thought, in that race. I thought the horse kind of got too far back and just didn't have much to run into. I think it's going to be a pretty swift pace up front in this spot. I like the extra 16th of a mile today. The last race was at 1 mile. Now we got 1 mile and 16th. I like the jockey switch to Julian Leparoux. He's riding very well on the turf at Gulfstream this year. I thought at 8-1, this horse just made a lot of sense for me. I just didn't love a whole lot of other horses in the race. So $5 to win on the 4 was my play. I'll go ahead and give my second choice and then kick it to you for your strong opinion. The 3 B Catcher was a horse I liked second. And I think it's just the consistency factor, just really consistent. and just kind of that horse that I think can clunk up and be there at the end, and another horse that I think will have the benefit of a pretty hot pace today. I really like closers in this spot. So B Catcher, another one that's a pretty strong closer.
So I agree on B Catcher. I use B Catcher. I'm going to talk about two other horses before I get to what I would say is probably the best long shot for me on the card. The 6 Hard Red Candy. I don't really know what happened last time out, to be honest. I really liked some of his races when he was showing some speed. And then his last 2, he really hasn't been on the front end. Obviously, folks, all these horses have 1 win. So you will find flaws in all of them, I promise you. But I think this is a good move to get Luis Saez, because Luis will definitely get him to go a little bit quicker than maybe he's been used to. Not that Paco's not aggressive, but I think Luis Saez really does a good job on the front end. So I thought that was a horse to include. And then 9, Palace Kitten, who is my top choice. This horse really got a chance to kind of just sit and go and plod along. I don't know how much speed there is in this spot that's going to hold. The two main contenders in terms of being able to show speed, I think the 7 Auburn Hills, I don't know what those races, look at him fade. Every time he runs, he pretty much fades out of there. And the 8 just broke his maiden at the 20,000 maiden claiming level. That's not going to get it done here to win by a length. At 30-1 morning line, I probably expect a little higher, 40 or 50-1. So I kind of saw the 9 and said, if the 7 and 8 really want to go, the 9 can just sit right off and run a solid race, kind of 3 starts back, even though that was taken off the turf. My strong opinion in terms of a price, I should have said that at the beginning. Maybe a big favorite, but the 2 enough. This horse just ran into a really tough claiming field with Shootin' the Breeze. Shootin' the Breeze is one of the better claimers here at Gulfstream on the turf going this distance. I think he did really well to hold on to 6 by less than 6 lengths. Because if you look at the comment, early on, he was on the inside on the rail, and he was just kind of primed for that spot, had a really good opportunity, and then it says done early. So I went back and watched, and I said, I don't know if I want a horse that says done early. I kind of disagree with that comment. I think he did well to hold on to that spot. And I think we talked about this maybe towards the beginning when we began the show. If you hold on to 6th, and you could do that against horses that are much better than you, and the odds indicate at almost 18-1 those horses are better than you, I think this is a pretty sizable drop, and I will definitely take 15-1. I would consider playing this horse again. I'm going to use this horse in my pick 4, but I would definitely consider playing a little win place show or something, or even a win place or something, because I think this horse, getting Jaramillo back, I think is important too. I really like this horse, and I think at 15-1, there's a ton of value. Did you like enough at all, or were you kind of throwing this one out?
I did look at enough because I just think closers are going to win the race, and I do think this horse can close. I kind of just fell off as far as making like a top 4 or a try ticket for me, but I don't hate that pick much. My biggest deal is I really believe with Saez on the 6, and I have the 6 and 3rd. I'm with you. I thought that race last time out, just a head scratcher, throw it out. I think Saez on the 6. This horse has got speed in the past performances. I think I think Saez is going to send this gelding to the front. I think Auburn Hills is definitely going to be in the front. I think Palace Kitten is going to be in the front. Colbro's the 8, you're right, a little outclassed, but the horse has shown speed. So I think there's a chance he's going to be up there, and that's where I worry about that speed holding. So yeah, I think the 6 is the most likely stayer out of the 4 horses that have the speed. So I'm with you there. But yeah, Arham the 2, or Arnoff the 2. Arham is a 4-year-old that's going to run on Friday at Gulfstream Race 9. Check out him. But Arnoff the 2, I don't know. I just don't know how talented the horse is. And obviously 15-1. that's it is what it is. Obviously, there's going to be questions, but I just don't know if he's going to be quite fast enough. But I am with you on the Jaramillo angle. I do like that he rides right back here, so I don't hate it.
Yeah, and I think in my opinion, I think you'd be really, really hard pressed in my book to, if I left this one off, I'd be really, really upset. Like, for example, to your point about the 4, I think he belonged on the turf the whole time. I just kind of like a few horses better. The one horse that I left off, I guess, that I would have wanted to include before we kind of wrap up is the 10, Reliability. He did progress last time out, which is important because Palace Kitten kind of just went gate to wire and got caught. So I'll still say gate to wire because he literally got caught by a nose. But Reliability did show the ability, that's a play on word, to actually progress. The comment said aim wide, 4 wide, no bid. I mean, if you're going to go 4 wide, you really have a lot to make up. And the fact he was able to even make up some ground, I think, was really, really impressive. That was kind of the one, and Mary Epler owns and trains. I think that's one of the angles that I was like, I just don't know how much value I'm going to get. So I was kind of between the 9 and the 10 in terms of who I wanted to leave off. I just think the 9 will sit a better spot because I think the 7 and 8 are going to fall down. It's interesting, and before I ask you about the 10, if you're a rider in the spot, and again, you're not a professional jockey, but what I will ask you is, how do you approach this race with the 7 and 8? Are you just going to assume they fall down and you want to be sitting third? Or at some point, do you say, I got to go attack these 2? How would you kind of approach it if you were the connections, the trainer, the rider? Because I think you kind of just let the 7 and 8 do their own battle and sit behind, but not everyone thinks that way.
I kind of think the 9 will sit off of them because he's drawn outside, but I think I really believe 6, 7, 8 are going to go. And with Saez on the 6, yeah, I think he's going to go. But yeah, if I'm riding like a horse like Palace Kitten, I think I don't know though. I mean, the horse runs best on the lead. That's the problem. I don't think you can be too far off. I don't think Palace Kitten, even though is drawn outside the speed, I don't think you can be more than about a length off those horses. They do their best running towards the front. So now if I'm the jockey at the 10, I'm pretty happy, right? Because, I just fall back and make a run. I think if you're riding a closer in this race, you got to be happy because, on paper, it really should materialize to where you fall back and make a run. And the 10 is another one. He's a good closer, the horse can come from off the pace and make an impact. So also the 10, interesting enough, a lot of times people think, well, the longer the race, the better the closer is going to perform. I don't necessarily think that's the case. The longer the race, the more tired that closer is going to be when they finally get ready to make that run a lot of times. So I think the 1/16 is kind of a sweet spot for this horse. Broke his maiden at Laurel at this distance. So, and then 2 back ran in a maiden special weight at Laurel and ran well as well, getting second. So at the distance. So I kind of think getting back to the 1/16 is a positive sign for the 10.
Yeah, he's 1 for 2 at this distance. And the other one that he didn't win was a second place finish. Like you said, both races coming at Laurel. Mm-hmm. I guess to sum up the 9 and 10, the 10 I don't think is as good as the 9, but the race sets up better for the 10. So you kind of have to make, and you see on the morning line odds 4-1 versus 9-2. I think that's a strong indication of how similar these 2 are, and you kind of just have to make the decision. I chose not to use the 10. I'm sure plenty of people will, and I expect both to take money. With that being said, let's kind of wrap up our ticket here. I'll start with race 7. I went with 3, 4, 6, 9, with 1, 3, with 4, 8, 9, with 2, 3, 6, 9. That's a $48 ticket. I will advise that race 9, that was the race that Aaron went with, used the 2 yes this time. If your budget allows it, you might want to include the 7, Richie's Got Game, and the 11, Chow. My ticket's $48, but again, if your budget will allow you to go a little bit deeper and take some more money out of your pocket, those are 2 horses I would include.
All right, yeah. So this is not my favorite sequence, no doubt, but I still think we can make some money here. And race 7, I had a $5 exacta box with the 4 and the 9. I just kind of think in the end they're going to be the standouts of the race. 2 class droppers who have ran pretty well, at that level. Race 8, $10 to win on the 3. Just hoping the 7 furlongs, has the win at the 7 furlongs last time out. Hoping that horse is just a little bit of a specialist and can take the field gate to wire. In race 9, I just took a swing. 50-cent trifecta box, 2, 4, 7, 11. Mixed in some shorter prices with a couple of longer shots there. I just think that is such a wide open race. And in race 10, $5 to win on the 4. And once again, a very wide open race. We almost talked about every horse and why I didn't play a try in that race. I couldn't narrow it down to 4. So I just said, you know what? The 4 getting back for the turf for the second time, 8-1. A closer in a race full of speed. I'll take a shot with $5 to win on the 4 for $37 total.
Yeah, and that's a good point. If when you're playing the pick 4, you don't really have a choice. You kind of have to play them all. I've never heard of a pick 4 where you only get to play 3. That would be new. But to your point, if you like to play exactas, tried, supers, whatever you like to play, and you can't narrow it down, then you probably want to sit the race out, or you just go small win, or maybe a small quick exacta, something like that. You don't just play it all because you'll probably lose money. All right, enough with Mr. Nice Guy. I have to talk about yesterday because it was just utterly disgusting. And we'll start with race 7. Everyone can see it. This was one of the most frustrating things. I've been playing these sequences for a long time. I absolutely love to do it. If someone said I don't want to play the ponies anymore, and they described to me yesterday's situation, I would understand. Well, let's start in race 4. Race 7. We talked about Freedom Matters yesterday. That was my top choice. I think that was yours as well, right? Freedom Matters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Had no excuse to lose. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'll get through. I got Freedom Matters, short price. You could see there, you could see the odds. Short favorite, but nonetheless a favorite. And then I see the 5, Super Watson, really make his way right behind and sit the perfect trip. And I'm thinking, here we go. We've got something. 8-1. Getting the DMs. I'm getting the emails. I'm like, here we go. But I should have known better. I really should have known better. And we'll get into how crushing this is. Before we kind of move on, do you want anyone out of this race? Because I kind of thought Super Watson just sat the perfect trip.
Yeah, this race really screwed up my whole day because this was my big win wager right off the bat. And Freedom Matters, like you said, looks like a winner. And yeah, great call by you. Super Watson comes up and then passes Freedom Matters. And then Freedom Matters kind of re-rallies and passes them back. And I'm like, I'm still going to cash this? I can't believe it. And then Super Watson puts it away again. So yeah, I wasn't thrilled with anybody out of this race. But great call by you on Super Watson.
Yeah, well, too bad you pick 4. You need all 4. And that's unfortunate. We're going to get to it. I agree that my biggest point, at least with Super Watson, I didn't think he was that much worse than Freedom Matters, who finished 3rd by a length. Super Watson was 5th by 2 1/4. And look at the value. That's the way I played it, and it actually worked out, which is nice. But unfortunately, we're going to get to the bad beat real soon. Race 8, this was another one, kind of hit this one right on the head. I didn't really love anyone, but I looked at these 6 Palladio, and I said, I just kind of see this horse sitting the perfect trip. Carson City Kid took a lot more money than I think we anticipated. If one of the things that I like to do, and I hope everyone's the same way, you kind of know what kind of sequence you're in for. If you looked at races 1 through 6, you saw a lot of prices, and that was just kind of the day it was. And you could see, we'll get to it, some of the final pick 6 prices and the Rainbow 6, I should say, the pick 5. They were incredible yesterday, Gulfstream. But I kind of knew after race 7, I was like, I need one of these prices. Crazy Shot took money too, so I was kind of looking at this. I was like, I don't know, the 6 kind of feels like this price. Palladio kind of just did his thing. Once he made that move, he looked really, really strong going 3 wide. I was happy to see that he held on, but you've seen this, but what you're a lot more experienced than me. When horses make that 3 wide move, they're really tough to beat. That's like the winning move. Did you kind of feel the same way when he did that?
Oh yeah, I thought the race was over as soon as you saw that horse moving. And I'll be honest again, this was a hell of a call by you. I just didn't really think about this horse much at all. But yeah, the class drop, I guess, is what you have to circle. Obviously, dropping in for the claiming ranks for the first time since breaking the maiden in the maiden claiming ranks. And yeah, just you're right. Definitely became the value of the race 11-1. Now I will say 11-1 may have been a little too high on the horse because the 7 took way too much money, right? I liked the 7, but then 3-1 hit, and it's like that's not great. I liked the 1, but 5-2 wasn't really great either. So yeah, I mean, this was a hell of a call by you, and you're right. Once the 6 made the move on the outside, you knew it was over. And Carson City Kid really didn't put up much of a fight. The margin was somewhat close, but the 6 kind of had it all the way to the stretch. You kind of knew it.
Yeah. At this point, I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, this might be a magical type of Wednesday, but it wasn't. And again, we're going to get to it. But I agree. The point that I made yesterday, when you see class droppers, the biggest thing that I like to do, if possible, because it doesn't always happen, look for the race that's most similar to the one he's about to run in. So if you look at the 6 and say, well, he's dropping class, he wasn't good. But if you look at that start 3 back, the race 3 back, the starter optional claiming 40, that was the most similar in the group of 6. I don't like to go further back than 6. The group of 6 was that race November 14. That's the one where you said, all right, I think he could run this. If he does run this, he can win. So that was my logic there. And you're right, 11-1 was way too much value. I think you would have reconsidered if he was 11-1. All right, let's move on to another good race here for me, at least. The 9. Race 9. We didn't get quite the price that we got on the 6 Palladio, but we kind of saw this race wide open, and we kind of hit this one on the head. You had mentioned the 11, Kelly Can Run. I took a stand and didn't use that one. The 8 Candy Flower kind of just went gate to wire for the most part. Tell me what you kind of thought of that race.
So this is why I harp on this show, and I wanted to make this show a lot about betting psychology and really try to get into how should I play a race specifically. I handicapped this race great, and I screwed up the bet. And that sometimes I tell people it's a 50-50 thing. It's 50% handicapping and 50% decisions you make on your betting and your betting structure. I played a try here. I got the top 2 runners. I didn't get the 3rd place horse. I got greedy and left off the 11, hoping that I could get a price somewhere else, and I didn't. But the biggest mistake I made, and if you rewatch yesterday's show, which just you don't need to, just trust me that I said this. I said I almost played Candy Flower to win. I really like this horse, and the horse wins at almost 6-1. I mean, right there. If I would have played a win, the other 3 races wouldn't have mattered for me. I would have been profitable. So it was a betting mistake on my part, not a handicapping mistake, because I love the 8, and the 8 ran really, really well here and won. Showed a lot of heart, I thought. It dug down deep and won as well. And again, a great thing for you. Like you said, it's not a huge price, but it's still a really solid price.
So this is where I'm going to start going off on a tangent. But before I do, Dennis said, Ricky, I hope you played a pick 3. Well, I wish someone had told me that yesterday, because you could see here, pick 3 brought in $460. That's not bad. If someone has a $460 pick 3 and they know about it, please let me know. We're going to get to the reason why I couldn't wait to come on today. If you were watching the sequence yesterday, and you were watching it, or say you were watching it all yesterday, the sequence at Gulfstream, you just knew a favorite wasn't going to come in. You looked at this race. It was horrible. The horses are horrible. We didn't like anyone. And I remember Mike was on here telling me he liked the 9 Romario. I liked the 7 and 10 Joyful Surprise and Grand Union. They were pretty bad. Grand Union was okay. I was alive to the 7 for $1,735, I believe, or $1,740, one of the two. The other one was, and I want to pull this up because I wrote it down here. I'm going to look at it here again. The 10 was $1,935. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, all right, let me hedge on a few. That's too much. I don't hedge on the 9. Not only do I hedge on the 9, I hedge on the 2, who I didn't include on the ticket. I also hedged on the 6. So I'm thinking to myself, the 7 and 10 can't win. There's no way. We've seen the prices come in. And when you're playing these sequences, for you, for example, you saw the prices and said, I want to stay away maybe. When we do the show, we don't know what's going to happen, but we all knew there were no favorites coming in here. So it's a really, really hopeless feeling. So the 9 Romario, I actually wanted to show the video. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to. The 9 Romario runs his best race of his career. Now, to Mike Samich's credit, he did like the 9. I like the 2. The 2 gets beat out by a nose. So I guess the one consolation for me is that the 2 didn't win, because he would have heard me from the Racing Dudes headquarters here in Fort Lee. So I guess that's the bright side. The downside is to get 3/4 of the sequence right, to hit a pick 3 for $460, to come up short is just really sickening. That would have paid for probably the whole week. Help me out here. Tell me I didn't do something wrong, because there was one, probably would have been one of the biggest pick 4s I've ever hit, for a $36 ticket. Mike came on earlier and said, what was your ticket size? I said $36. You should have seen his face, because to get to that point for $36 in my book is really, really tough to do. What did you think of this race, and what did you think of your 6 that you really liked, Blankenstein?
Well, first of all, I will tell you what you did wrong, and the only reason I will do it is because I told you yesterday the 10 is a stupid use. Do not use the 10. So I will never come back the day after if I didn't bring it up the day before, right? Because that's too easy to do. It's too easy for me to say, well, you should have used the 9, dummy. Well, I didn't say anything about the 9 yesterday, so I'm not going to give that to you. The 10 was a horrible use. Never stop using horses like the 10. That's what I would tell you. And the saddest thing about it is when they turned for home, I had talked so much shit about the 10 yesterday, and it's like the 10's going to win by like 4 here. Like there's no excuse. And the 10 just does what he does. Just doesn't know how to win. For some reason, this horse just doesn't win. But listen, the problem is, Ricky, you didn't like the 9. So I don't know what I could tell you as far as like, so maybe you don't use the 10 and you use the 6 or you use the 8. Well, you still didn't cash. You didn't like the 9. So you just, you weren't right handicapping it. And that's, I don't know how you could have fixed it. I think it was just one of those things. Yeah, bad luck. The 6, you asked me about that. I don't know what the hell that was. I'm sitting here watching thinking, all right, 6 is going to get loose on the lead. The 6 is like 5th at the backstretch. Luis Saez is pumping that horse for all he can. He fades. I'm like, well, that was a real brilliant play by me, So it's not like I can sit here and tell you, well, I told you, I can't. Biggest advice, don't use the 10. Don't use horses like the 10. But it's like you said, you kind of knew a favorite wasn't going to come in if you watched it all day long. So it had to be a bad feeling. And to be fair, I thought your 7 was the second likely winner in the race. And the 7, I don't know what you want to say about him. I mean, that horse didn't run a step, right?
So I agree. The 7 didn't run a step. The 6 didn't run a step. The 2 would have been a dagger. So the bright side is the 2 didn't win, because Mike asked me, I think it was Mike yesterday, asked about the 2 and the 9, and I made the case for the 2, and I said, at least this horse is going to get back to the turf where he was originally scheduled for. I'd love to have the 2 back, and I guarantee you if he's in this spot again, he won't be, what was that, 12.5 to 1? Guarantee it. So I do think, though, that I don't want the 2 next time out for the pure fact that he's going to be a short price. But now that, Dennis said here, I did something wrong. I didn't listen to Mike. That's fair, but I didn't get it. I didn't use Mike through races 7 through 9 either, so I didn't know which way I could go. It's just one of those things, in all seriousness, where it's like, in my book, you always remember the beats, sometimes bigger than your wins.
Yeah.
But I do think the important thing, as we wrap up here, is when you get 3 out of 4 right in that situation, you know you're reading the sequence right, which means you are on top of your game. The worst, I think, even a worse feeling is when you get blown out and your horses aren't even close. In my opinion, that's even worse, because that means you didn't read the sequence right. And I've always said, it's kind of like playing sports. When you're not going right, nothing's going right. Everything went right yesterday except the last race. Someone said here, we should have bet 100 to win on every horse. You can do that, but that's, I don't know. I know I don't have the budget to do that. If someone did, then congratulations. But all seriousness, no, it was a great sequence yesterday. Today's going to be even better. I'm feeling good. It's lucky 13 here. It's 121-21. That has to be a good omen somewhere. Anything you want to say before we wrap up here?
I'll just give you credit again for the 2, because I made fun of that. You're talking about the 2 yesterday. So I didn't think that horse would run worth a damn. So you listen, and honest to God, that's why I can't sit here. I feel bad about it more than, oh man, this is going to be fun to kind of razz you. Your handicapping yesterday was off the charts. It was probably the best. If you forget about the wagers or what you said to wager and you just talk horses, it was probably the best handicapping the show has had in its 13 now episodes, because every race you gave us a price horse that won, or in Fake ID's case, got beat just nastily, right? But still ran a very good race. So I know you probably don't want to hear that because you didn't hit it, but you did a great job yesterday. So pat yourself on the back a little bit.
That is true. I'll give a little shoulder tap. No, it is true. Like you said, I think it would have been much if the 2 had won. I don't know. I don't know if I would have been able to come on here.
I think it would be Samich and I on here today, because
I don't know if I would have been. Yeah. But to another serious point, Mike said the only thing he would have made that I maybe would have changed is going shorter in that type of race. That I completely agree with. We've talked about this all the time. The stronger the race, the more confident you could be in your horses. Because they're just better. They're more consistent. I do appreciate that. Horrible beat, but I did nail the sequence. I wish there were some people that had played pick 3s. If you did, please send me an email, DM, comment, or whatever.
I feel better.
Yeah, it definitely make me feel better. If someone hit a $460 pick 3, that was probably, I don't know, like $18, something in that range.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been 18 for a $36 ticket, something like that. So I do appreciate that. That is true. So the 2, if the 2 had won, I wouldn't be able to come. I wouldn't have been able to come on here. I wouldn't have been able to stomach it, because those. I think we were talking multiple thousands for the 2. Like I had the 2 favorites more or less in the. So we would have been talking about like potentially like $4,000 or $5,000 payout.
I think the 2 was paying like $10,000, dude.
Yeah. So okay. So if the 2 had won, and even I played a $54 ticket, and say if I included the 2, that would have been really, really special. That probably would have been the biggest pick 4 anyone in the history of the dues has probably hit, by a good margin. Unfortunately, the 2 didn't win. The 9 won. But again, good omen. We are going to hit something today. That's just the pick 4, though. You can always catch the rest of the card at Ricky's Rockets right on the website here, and I'll pull that up. Obviously, Aaron has his stuff going on, not only at what we would call the stomping grounds at Oaklawn tomorrow, but the Pegasus as well. All these great things, and I'll pull up here the Rockets for you guys. So I've never done this before, but I just want to give you a quick briefing on kind of what it looks like. It's this article here, and there's free information today at Aqueduct. There will be free information at Gulfstream tomorrow. And then you can always get the full card at Aqueduct and Gulfstream as well. Always playing the better tracks. Obviously, if you want a smaller track in your Remington Park or whatever like that, Aaron is the guy for you. He always has every track covered. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to give a preview and all that, but Aaron does. He gives you picks, all that great stuff. multiple sequences. So definitely check that out. And this is one of the better weekends. Someone said, I did throw a daily double that paid well with the 9 after following your picks. Was epic. Handicapping, just one of those beats. Thank you. So someone did the right thing. I appreciate it. Someone made a little money. So we do appreciate that. But yeah, check it out. Another good card. Unfortunately, I will not be doing Aqueduct moving forward, except for on Thursdays, because Oaklawn, is Oaklawn going to be running on Thursdays or just Friday through Sunday?
Yeah. Oaklawn will be running Thursdays. Yeah.
Oh, so don't listen to what I said. Just this weekend, opening weekend, Oaklawn's not running. So unfortunately, Aqueduct is no longer going to be part of my deal because I can't wait to cover Oaklawn. So make sure you check that out. Oaklawn's one of my favorite tracks. Never been to it, like I said yesterday, but we're going to make it happen. Maybe we'll even do a live show from those parts one day. Maybe
as soon as you can travel, you can travel, but as soon as Oaklawn will let us in, you need to get down here. Like, that's an easy trip. You can fly. Listen, the airport you can fly into is like 10 minutes from the house here. I pick you up. Listen, very easy trip. You just need to get your ass down here.
Yeah, no, that is true. And it would have been nice if I was home to maybe a $10,000 score. I probably would have booked the trip yesterday on the spot, whether I was allowed to go or not. But in all seriousness, Oaklawn's great. Smarty Jones tomorrow. Maybe we will touch on that. Obviously, that's going to be our sequence. So if you were looking for Gulfstream tomorrow, unfortunately, won't be happening. We will be covering Oaklawn. But if you guys really want, maybe we could put a quick ticket together for Gulfstream as well. We can always do that. And we'll talk about the Pegasus, definitely the turf, and we'll talk about the main one. We will not cover the whole card of Pegasus Day. You will need to buy the guide for that or get Ricky's Rockets. Either way, get both. Why not? Good information.
I like that idea. Get both.
Yeah, get both. I promise you won't be sorry. With all that said and done, with all that said, 121. It's got to be a good day for us. I have a feeling it will. After being so close yesterday, the racing gods will be on my side. They're going to help you cash as well. We're both going to cash. Without further ado, take care, everyone. Enjoy your Thursday afternoon. And again, 121-21. Let's make it a good day.